So we're going to show you a setup for training hip external rotation. Now, loads of people contacting me having issues saying they can't get into a 90-90 and they cannot feel a stretch on the capsule of the hip that's in external rotation. And one of the main reasons for this is they have a lack of mobility in the opposite hip, which is blocking them from getting into a position where they can generate enough time under tension to start training some good hip mobility. So if you're finding 90-90s difficult and everybody's telling you should be feeling it here and you're not, this is how you should be thinking to set up instead. So the problem with 90-90 is for a lot of people, they have a limitation in the leg that's in internal rotation, which blocks them from getting into a stretch position. So what Dave will tell you is here, he's not actually feeling any stretch in his capsule. No matter how he kind of wiggles or moves around, he's just simply kind of not into a position where he can get enough internal rotation. And that's because the way we've set him up here, we're actually blocking this rear leg. If we wanted to get him into a position, he would have to have the mobility to actually come into a position where he can work 90-90. Now, he has the mobility to come here, but trust me, a lot of you don't, and these are what people keep messaging me about. So if you can't get into this 90 setup and you're stuck here, and you're actually feeling a pinching kind of up into your QL area, into the ribs, which is really, really common, then what we're going to do is show you a modification, which is awesome. And the modification is like this. So the way to set this up is if you don't have access to a box or you're just at home, you want to find a door frame. I find a door frame works really well. If not, you want to look for a corner wall if you have one in your house. But basically, you need to set it up so that you can get your leg going down one side of the wall or through the door frame if you're in a door frame. And the target leg can go like so, allowing us to get into external rotation. Now, the setup's quite important. You need to make sure that you have a perfect 90-degree angles on the front leg. So at the moment, Dave's leg is a little bit too much in flexion. So to fix that, he's going to just push up a bit more. Perfect, bit more, bit more. Perfect. So I've taken him to a position where he's got a complete 90-degree angle from the leg. Now, how high up your foot is going to be is relative to your current level of mobility. If you are very immobile, you might find that your leg angle is a lot lower. If you're more mobile, you might find that it's a lot higher. Now, Dave's quite mobile, so for him, this angle probably isn't really giving him too much of a stretch. So what I'm going to do is just pop this in to increase that angle a little bit more. And again, if he still didn't feel enough stretch, we could just pop another yoga block in, which would be increasing the amount of external rotation on his left leg, and that would give him the stretch that he's after. Now, the other thing that's really important is how we're lining up through our pelvis. So a drill that I want you to practice is when you're in this external rotator position, I want you to practice rolling as a trunk roll, like this, perfect, and rolling back over the top, okay? So again, he's leading a little bit too much with his chest. You're gonna come in, and it's actually an adductor pull. So from here, I want you to pull over, perfect. It's like a kicking motion. It's important that to get the proper stretch onto the capsule, we want to be kind of in a more kind of up over the top position as opposed to kind of a rolled back. Here, we're not going to get much stretch into capsule, but in this position, we will. So I do recommend that you practice a few times rolling back and rolling forward. So Dave's doing this beautifully now from the hip. It's a kicking motion. If it's not from the hip, it tends to look more like that. We don't want to roll from the upper body. It's all coming from the hip. Perfect. So now you've learned to roll your hip. You've got your front leg, also your bottom leg at 90-degree angle. You've got enough external rotation inside your front leg that you're feeling a big stretch inside your hip capsule. And in this position, you should feel quite relaxed to be able to spend time here. We know that for capsular work and mobility work, often we need a component of time under tension of upwards of 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 minutes to start communicating to the cells. So this is why I prefer this setup, is it allows people to be a bit more relaxed and more comfortable and spend that time that's necessary to start training. So once you're in this position and once you get a big stretch into your hip capsule, you can spend, like I said, a couple of minutes in this position, a lot of time under tension. But the other reason I really like it is we can start to demonstrate isometric strengthening. So in this position, if you wanted to perform what's called a Pales contraction or a progressive angle contraction, what you would do is simply push your foot into the wall, okay? So I like people to create some irradiation. So Dave, squeeze your core for me, tense in your body so you can produce more power. And now what I want you to do is just Try and push that box away. Perfect. Wow, he's actually moving the box, so he's got a lot of power here. So that means he's contracting his external rotators in an external rotator position, demonstrating strength, which is kind of what we're after with this movement. Relax. And you can start to build up sets and reps of time under tension here. So you're aiming for 10 to 15 second contractions, and you're looking to do kind of 3 or 4 sets of them to build enough time under tension to get the result we want. You can also work a little bit of regressive angle isometric contraction. It's not my preferred position to do this because you're normally so maxed out, it's hard to generate strength. But the theory would be, we'll see if Dave can do this, irradiate. A regressive angle contraction means he's contracting the tissues that's in a shortened position. And rather than thinking of lifting off, I want to see if Dave can just focus on making his leg lighter on the cushion. So make it lighter on this yoga block for me, Dave. Lighter, lighter, make it lighter, and it fell down. Okay, the fact he's holding his leg there, and you can relax back, tells me that we know he created enough of a contraction to reduce pressure on the yoga block, demonstrating that he was creating a rails contraction. So again, this is an essential modification if you're struggling with hip external rotation in a conventional 90-90 setup. You need to spend time communicating to the capsular tissue. Then you need to spend time developing isometric strength to help reinforce those mobility gains. The way you would progress it from here would be simply increasing this angle. So if I were to take Dave to here, and you would do that by just shuffling down further into the wall, exactly, and we just take him even more. So you can see you can come up into almost a full 90-degree angle, like so, and he can tell you this is a big stretch into his capsule, okay? So it's really, really good. It doesn't put much stress onto the rest of the system. He's relatively relaxed, which is why I like it. He's certainly not got any blocking or pinching into his ribs. And yeah, it's brilliant. So if you're struggling with conventional 90, make sure you give this modification a try. And remember, if you found that video useful, we'd really appreciate if you could hit the like button, and also if you subscribe, that would be awesome.